Life is not fair, ladies and gentlemen, and the sooner you come to terms with that reality, the sooner you can begin to live the life that belongs to you. Because fairness is not promised, equality and opportunity is not evenly distributed. Circumstances are not shared equally. Some people are born with privilege, some people are born into poverty, some people walk into rooms with doors already open for them, while others spend their whole lives pounding on walls that never seem to crack. But hear me on this, it does not matter what hand you've been dealt. What matters is how you play that hand, because you have within you the strength, the power, the creativity, the resilience to turn even the most unfair situation into a stepping stone toward greatness. And I stand here to remind you that life will never line up perfect. The road will never be smooth all the way. There will always be bumps. There will always be setbacks. There will always be days when you scream at the sky, why me? Why now? Why this? And the echo will give you no answer, but what you do with the silence, what you do with the emptiness, what you do with the pain, that is where your story of triumph is written. Because when life is not fair, you can still choose to be faithful when life is not fair. You can still choose to keep moving forward when life is not fair. You can still choose to refuse the lie that says you are powerless, because unfairness does not equal defeat. It equals an opportunity to rise above, to climb higher, to discover strength you didn't know you had. If you keep standing when others fall, if you keep believing when others doubt, if you keep pushing when others quit, then unfairness becomes the very fuel that ignites your destiny. Because greatness is never built in comfort. Greatness is never handed out like candy. Greatness is forged in the fire of adversity, and the world's most powerful men and women are those who took the bricks that life threw at them and built a foundation strong enough to carry their dreams. So if life has given you pain, turn it into purpose. If life has given you rejection, turn it into redirection. If life has given you scars, turn them into stars that light the way for others who walk through the darkness. Because the truth is that life being unfair is not a curse. It is the very thing that sharpens you, chisels you, refines you, and prepares you for the kind of victory that cannot be denied. And while some may get ahead on luck, you will get ahead on strength. While some may get by on privilege, you will get by on perseverance. While some may take shortcuts, you will take the long road. But when you arrive, your arrival will carry weight. Your arrival will command respect. Your arrival will inspire. Because you didn't just stumble into success. You fought your way there, tooth and nail, heart and soul, against the current, against the odds, against the unfairness of life. And that, my friends, is the kind of success that lasts, the kind of success that cannot be taken away, because it was not given to you by man. It was carved out of the stone of hardship by your own two hands. So the next time you look at your life and you say, this isn't fair, remind yourself that fair is not the standard. Growth is the standard. Rising is the standard. Living full and dying empty is the standard. Because nobody promised you a fair life, but you can promise yourself that you will not stop until you have squeezed every drop of potential out of your life. And you will not leave this world wondering a what if, because you will have given it everything you had, and that is how you beat the unfairness of life. You refuse to let it make you bitter, and instead you let it make you better. You refuse to let it break you, and instead you let it build you. You refuse to let it silence you, and instead you let it give you a voice so loud the world has no choice but to hear it. Because when you stand on that stage of life, when you stand in that arena where battles are fought, you lift your head high and declare, life is not fair, but I am still here. Life is not fair, but I am still standing. Life is not fair, but I am still fighting. Life is not fair, but I will win. Then nothing can stop you. Because the world bows to the man or woman who refuses to be defined by circumstance and chooses instead to be defined by commitment, courage, and character. Because when you wake up each morning and you face the reality that life is not fair, you have two choices. You can lie there in bed and curse the unfairness, or you can rise, square your shoulders, and decide that although life is not fair, you are going to be faithful to your dream. You are going to be consistent with your actions. You are going to be relentless in your pursuit. That decision, that daily choice, will separate you from the masses who complain but never change. Because you see, complaining does not pay bills. Whining does not build businesses. Crying about unfairness does not heal wounds. It is action that changes things. It is courage that transforms lives. It is vision backed by discipline that makes the impossible possible. And yes, I understand. It hurts when others seem to get what you have worked so hard for without effort. It stings when someone else gets the promotion because of favoritism. It breaks your heart when you love deeply, but life rips that love away. It rattles your soul when sickness knocks on your door. It feels unbearable when tragedy hits. But even when the knife of unfairness cuts deep, you have to decide not to bleed out in despair, but to rise in defiance. To say to yourself, I cannot control the hand life dealt me, but I can control how I play these cards. I can control my attitude. I can control my effort. I can control my persistence, because effort cannot be taken from you. Resilience cannot be taken from you. Faith cannot be taken from you. And if you hold on to those things, the world may strip you of comfort, but it cannot strip you of destiny. The world may deny you shortcuts, but it cannot deny you the harvest if you keep planting seeds. The world may laugh at you, mock you, dismiss you. But when you refuse to quit, when you refuse to bow, when you refuse to shrink, sooner or later life will have to acknowledge you. Because the universe rewards consistency. The universe bows to determination. The universe cannot resist a man or woman who keeps knocking, keeps pushing, keeps believing even when the door seems welded shut. Because persistence breaks doors. And one day you will break through, and when you do, those who thought life's unfairness would bury you will have no choice but to look up and see you standing tall, alive, thriving, successful, glowing with the light of someone who survived what was meant to destroy them. And your testimony will become somebody else's roadmap. Your scars will become somebody else's healing. Your survival will become somebody else's hope. Because you will prove with your life that unfairness is not the end. It is simply the beginning of a different kind of fight, a fight that reveals your greatness. And once you realize that life is not supposed to be fair, you free yourself from the illusion of waiting for fairness. You free yourself from the false hope that someday everything will align perfectly, and you begin instead to create, to build, to hustle, to grind, to shape the future with your own hands. And I want you to understand this deeply. You cannot win if you keep waiting for the world to treat you right. You win when you decide to treat yourself right. You win when you refuse to let external unfairness create internal hopelessness. You win when you recognize that though life is not fair, you are still alive. And as long as you are alive, as long as there is breath in your lungs, you have a shot. You have an opportunity. You have another chance to rewrite the story, to push harder, to love deeper, to believe stronger, to rise higher. And maybe you've been knocked down. Maybe life has dragged you through mud. Maybe life has laughed in your face and said, you don't deserve this dream. But I'm here to tell you that you do. Not because life owes it to you, but because you are willing to earn it. You are willing to sweat for it. You are willing to bleed for it. You are willing to sacrifice for it. And the person who is willing to sacrifice, who is willing to get back up again and again, who is willing to turn their pain into power, that is the person life cannot keep down. That is the person who will one day rise and say, yes, life is not fair, but I am more than what I have been through. I am more than the unfairness. I am more than the losses. I am more than the rejections. I am still here. And I will win anyway. And when you decide deep down in your spirit that you will win anyway, even when the scales are tilted, even when the rules are stacked against you, you unlock a power that most people will never know, because most people wait for life to be fair before they give their all. But champions know life will never be fair, yet they give their all anyway. They push anyway. They fight anyway. They refuse to sit in the waiting room of fairness, and instead they build their own arena of greatness. And I want you to think about this. Every person you admire, every story of triumph you've ever heard, was not the story of someone who had it easy. Was not the story of someone who got lucky breaks at every turn. No, it was the story of someone who got knocked down, abandoned, doubted, betrayed, overlooked, rejected, sometimes even abused. But they chose to rise. They chose to keep moving. They chose to believe in themselves when nobody else would. And it is in those moments of darkness, when the weight of unfairness presses against your chest, when you want to scream, when you want to quit, when you feel like you can't take one more step. That is when the seeds of greatness are planted. That is when character is forged. That is when your strength is tested and proven, because a life without challenge produces weak people, but a life full of unfairness produces warriors, and you are a warrior. You are still here. And if you are still here, it means you have survived nights you thought would kill you. It means you have walked through fires you thought would consume you. It means you have endured heartbreaks you thought would destroy you. And yet you are still standing, maybe bruised, maybe scarred, but still standing. And let me tell you this, scars are not signs of weakness. They are signs of survival. They are medals of honor. They are evidence that life threw its worst at you but could not destroy you. And when you carry those scars with pride instead of shame, you show the world that the unfairness they threw at you was not enough to stop you. And so what if you had to work twice as hard? So what if you had to study longer? So what if you had to cry yourself to sleep? So what if you had to go without? So what if doors slammed in your face? Because every tear you shed watered the soil of your destiny. Every rejection you endured built resilience in your bones. Every unfair moment sharpened your edge. And today you are sharper, you are stronger, you are wiser, you are tougher because of the unfairness you endured. And let me tell you something else. Fairness does not make legends. Fairness does not create history makers. Fairness does not produce greatness. Unfairness does, because it is in the fight against unfairness that you discover who you really are. And when you know who you are, when you know your own strength, when you know your own power, there is nothing life can throw at you that will make you fold, because you are unshakable, you are unstoppable, you are undeniable. And I know the voices in your head sometimes tell you you're not enough. I know the pain of your past sometimes whispers that you can't make it. I know the memories of failure sometimes scream louder than your dreams. But I need you to rise above that noise. I need you to tell yourself daily that life may not be fair, but I will not waste my energy complaining. I will invest my energy creating. I will invest my energy building. I will invest my energy learning. I will invest my energy persisting. Because life is not fair. But my determination is not dependent on fairness. My purpose is not dependent on fairness. My destiny is not dependent on fairness. My destiny is dependent on me showing up, on me refusing to quit, on me pushing even when my legs tremble, on me believing even when the evidence says give up. And as long as I show up, as long as I keep pushing, as long as I keep fighting, the unfairness cannot stop me. It can only strengthen me. It can only shape me. It can only prepare me. Because everything I endure is equipping me for what I asked for. Everything I suffer is shaping me for the blessing I pray. For everything I lost is making room for what I deserve. And one day, one glorious day, when the breakthrough comes, when the success arrives, when the light breaks through the darkness, I will stand there not as someone who had it easy, not as someone who was given favors, but as someone who earned it, as someone who bled for it, as someone who fought for it. And that victory will be sweeter than anything fairness could have ever given me, because it will be mine, all mine. And I will say with pride, a life is not fair, but I am still here, I am still strong. I am still winning, I am still becoming everything I was meant to be. And when you finally embrace that life is not fair, but it is still worth living, when you stop waiting for the apology that will never come, when you stop expecting the system to treat you the way you treat others, when you stop crying over the cards you've been dealt and start playing them with everything you've got, then something extraordinary happens inside of you. You step into a new level of power. You begin to see obstacles as opportunities, setbacks as setups, disappointments as redirections, and pain as preparation. You begin to understand that the very things that tried to break you were the things building you. You begin to see that the nights you cried yourself to sleep were watering the seeds of your dream. You begin to realize that the doors that closed were pushing you toward the right path. And suddenly unfairness is no longer your enemy, but your trainer. Unfairness becomes the weight room where your muscles of perseverance are built. Unfairness becomes the fire where your character is purified. Unfairness becomes the storm that reveals the strength of your foundation. And when you start to see it this way, you stop saying a why me? And you start saying a try me. You stop shrinking in fear, and you start rising in faith. You stop hiding, and you start shining. And people will look at you and wonder how you kept going. People will whisper about how you survived. People will shake their heads in disbelief at the fact that you are still standing. And that's when you remind them, yes, life is not fair, but neither am I. Because I refuse to be fair to my doubts. I refuse to be fair to my fears. I refuse to be fair to my excuses. I will not treat them kindly. I will starve them. I will suffocate them. I will deny them every opportunity to rob me of my destiny. Because if life is unfair to me, then I will be unfair to everything that tries to hold me back. And let me tell you, my friend, that's how you win. That's how you rise. That's how you not by begging for fairness, not by pleading for sympathy, but by deciding that no matter how uneven the ground is, you will plant your feet. No matter how heavy the load is, you will carry it. No matter how high the mountain is, you will climb it. Because the strength inside you is greater than the unfairness outside of you. And deep down you already know it. You know because you have already survived things you thought would finish you. You know because you have already risen after falls that should have broken you. You know because you have already outlasted storms that should have drowned you. And if you did it before, you can do it again. If you rose once, you can rise twice. If you survived yesterday's unfairness, you can conquer tomorrow's. And every time you rise, every time you push, every time you refuse to quit, you become stronger. You become wiser, you become more unshakable. And that strength will take you places that fairness never could. That strength will open doors fairness could never build. That strength will make you unstoppable, and you will learn to say with pride, "A life is not fair, but I am not asking for it to be fair. I am making it work anyway. I am living my dream anyway. I am becoming great anyway." Because the truth is, fairness is not a requirement for greatness. Fairness is not a requirement for success. Fairness is not a requirement for happiness. What you need is courage. What you need is persistence. What you need is vision. What you need is faith. What you need is the audacity to believe that even when the odds are against you, you can still win. And once you believe that, once you live that, once you breathe that, there is no power on this earth that can stop you. Because you will be unstoppable, unbreakable, undeniable. You will become the living proof that life may not be fair. But you don't need it to be fair to win. You just need to keep moving, keep pushing, keep believing, and keep fighting until your reality matches the greatness inside of you. And as you keep pressing forward, you will notice that those who complain about life being unfair are often the ones who stop moving. They freeze in bitterness. They stay in resentment. They point fingers at the world and say it's not right, it's not just, it's not equal. And while their feelings may be valid, their stagnation becomes their prison. Because complaining never built a dream. Resentment never opened a door. Bitterness never produced a breakthrough. What builds dreams is action. What opens doors is persistence. What creates breakthroughs is resilience. And you have that resilience inside of you. You have that fire inside of you. You have that warrior inside of you. But it will not come alive while you are dwelling on how unfair the game is. It only comes alive when you start playing the game with everything you've got. Because the truth is, champions are not crowned because the rules were fair. Champions are crowned because they kept playing no matter the rules. Champions are crowned because they learned to adapt. They learned to strategize. They learned to maximize the little they had. And when they ran out of resources, they used their imagination. When they ran out of time, they used their faith. When they ran out of support, they used their willpower. And that is what life demands from you, not fairness. But fight not balance, but belief, not equality, but endurance. Because when you endure long enough, when you refuse to quit long enough, when you hold on in the storm long enough, life has a way of rewarding those who endure. Life has a way of revealing hidden paths to those who refuse to give up. Life has a way of bowing to the relentless, and you, my friend, were not born to bow down to unfairness. You were born to rise above it. You were born to look unfairness in the eye and say, "You will not stop me." You were born to show the world that greatness is not given to those with perfect conditions. Greatness is seized by those who create conditions out of chaos, who carve possibilities out of impossibilities, who build palaces out of ruins, who create opportunities where there were none. And every time you do that, every time you defy unfairness, you expand what is possible for others. You inspire those who are watching you. You give hope to those who feel hopeless. And suddenly your struggle is not just about you. It's about the countless lives you touch by refusing to give in. And when you see that, when you understand that your persistence is painting a blueprint for others, you gain strength, you gain meaning, you gain purpose, because you realize your fight matters, your story matters, your example matters. And life's unfairness becomes the very stage upon which your greatness is revealed, because if everything were fair, your victory would be ordinary. But because it was unfair, your victory becomes extraordinary. Because it was unfair, your triumph becomes legendary. Because it was unfair, your testimony becomes unforgettable. So the very thing you thought was your curse becomes your crown. The very thing you thought would destroy you becomes your defining moment. And that's when you learn to say with power, with authority, with conviction, yes, life is not fair. But I am not living for fairness, I am living for freedom. I am living for growth. I am living for impact. I am living for purpose. I am living for destiny. And when you live for destiny, fairness becomes irrelevant, because destiny is not decided by how the cards are dealt. Destiny is decided by how you play the hand. And I believe that you have the courage, the strength, the vision, and the persistence to play it well, to play it with heart, to play it with fire, to play it until the world knows your name, until the generations behind you thank you for never giving up, until your life becomes proof that yes, life is not fair, but you can still win anyway.